For this edition of In the Boardroom with Lucy Marcus, I've dragged her away from our comfortable surroundings at Thomson Reuters to Silicon Roundabout and the offices of Peerindex, a startup tech company. We're going to talk about the boards of companies like Peerindex, the boards of startups. Lucy, what should a board like this look like, and how different should it look from the board of a company 10 to 20 years old?
Well, it's an area that's often ignored, actually. Boards of startups are very important and can play a really big role in building strong foundations for the companies that they want to be. But oftentimes it gets lost in the fact that things are so busy, they're busy doing other things, looking for money, looking for people, trying to actually build the company and the product. And so it's
a critical moment.
Absolutely.
In a company.
It's a special moment.
Who I would imagine you'd often at a startup have the founder, maybe a family member or two, an investor.
Looks a little like the Murdoch boards.
You said that. I didn't. Who else do you need? And we'll get Azim's view in a minute. But who else do you need other than that at the start?
Well, we're joking about News Corp, but actually, it's a pretty good example in that best practices for corporate governance and boards are the same anywhere of any size company. So what you really want is actually to start from scratch and build it into the DNA of the company, best practice into the DNA of the company. So you need to have an independent board member if you can, which is really unusual, actually. Usually what you've got is a couple of the investors, the founder, a cousin or a best friend or something like that. But actually there is a real value in having an independent member. And it is a special time in that it's one of the only times when you can actually do that to build the board as you want to.
All right, Azim. You've heard what Lucy has to say. Do you fit those criteria?
Well, I'm not sure I agree with everything.
Okay. So, what do you not agree with?
Well, I think it's important to have a board, and it's important to think about what the composition is. But the questions of corporate governance within a startup are very, very different to those within a large company, and a board in a startup has to worry about a series of things that most large boards don't have to worry about.
Like,
and I think, well, for example, the financing, the strength of the balance sheet, the product strategy and the company direction. Startups often get started in a space of great volatility and uncertainty. I mean, the fog of war is everywhere.
If you don't think that that's the job of big company boards, you're mistaken.
Right.
Even though it feels like you're doing something different than big company boards, actually, they're worried about the balance sheet, they're worried about the product, they're worried about being innovative. So actually, so far you've identified what's the same, not different. Right. It feels different because you feel like you.
Is there not a pressure at a startup to get quick returns rather than put in place a long-term return strategy?
Not at the stage that we're at. We haven't run into that problem. The sort of tensions that you get are occasionally around focus. I mean, fundamentally for startups, 17 people, we can only do one thing well. And of course, we're creative people and we're seeing a lot of opportunities from the market. And what we use the board for is to test those and test that sensibility, right? Should we go off in that direction?
Well, I think that's a good point, because I think part of the board's role is to hold the company to account. I mean, it's not an advisory board. That's something different.
Right.
This is a governing board, and it helps to ensure that the company is doing.
Which you get, because that's why one of the reasons you're looking to go independent as well 6 months from now.
As a board,
as a board.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to have people who balance the decisions that I would make as a founder and a CEO. And the reality is, being a startup founder is quite a lonely role in terms of the number of decisions you have to make.
Do your board members need to understand tech? Do they need to really understand what Peerindex does? Do they need to understand as well that creativity might be...
I think across the board, you need to have an understanding of technology. You need to have an understanding of customers and markets. You need to have an understanding of talent, and you need to have an understanding about how to run a group of artists and talented people.
Again, any company, because the principles that apply to early stage tech companies are the same that apply to early stage companies anywhere. So though we're talking to Azim about tech, these are the same principles that are across the board. And I think you need to understand how to help create an environment of innovation on any company, because that's the kind of economy that we're working in. Kodak needed more innovation in their board, and more challenge about where are you today, where are you tomorrow.
All right, this is the Lucy Marcus Show, but I'm going to give you the last word, Azim. Anything else you want to add in terms of the way you see this moving forward?
Well, I think that startups have a life cycle, and they change, they have these metamorphoses, and as you have those metamorphoses, your board has to reflect that. And I expect my board in a year and a half to look very different to the way it looks now, because we'll be highly operational, highly execution oriented. We won't be doing as much innovation as we are having to do now, and our rate of change won't be as fast as it is now.
All right, Azim, many thanks to you. Lucy, as always, many thanks to you as well. That is it from this edition of Lucy Marcus in the Boardroom from Silicon Roundabout in London. I'm Axel Threlfall.